Well, if you weren't with us yesterday, we said goodbye to our weekend sports reporter, Brock Baldridge. Of course, we wish him the best, but we don't have sports for the next couple of weeks, so we're forced to improvise. So we're going to do a little something called Learning with Lindsey. Of course, we have meteorologist Lindsey Gaffney with us, talking to us about why it's so cold outside, or why it's going to get so cold outside.
It is going to be our coldest week of the season that we've seen almost all year. And we start off with our jet stream, which is what these colors are behind me. So it actually is showing wind speed at a very high level. So we're looking at 30,000 feet of altitude, right? So what we see right now, this is what's going to be coming up. This is our jet stream for Wednesday. So this is what's going to look like on Wednesday. Now, it's just incredibly strong winds, and you have this little kind of wave going. And we've talked about it a lot before. We have our ridges, we have our troughs. These are a low pressure. This is a high pressure. I talk about it all the time. But this goes hand in hand with what we call teleconnections. And the one we're looking at right now that's driving our cold Arctic air that's moving in is the Arctic oscillation, named pretty perfectly, right? So normally in the summertime, this jet stream is just going to be it's going to be north, in the far north of the U.S., up in Canada, one straight line, and it doesn't really move, but it's way stronger than what this is showing. So it's going to be very strong winds, straight line, doesn't move, and it doesn't let any Arctic air out. But what we're seeing when we go into a negative phase of the Arctic oscillation, which is what we're in, we have weaker winds, but it kind of meanders a little bit more, which is when we get our ridges and our troughs. So what's happening with the Arctic oscillation is when our trough moves in, which is what this is. Now, where are we? We're right over here. Okay.
Yep.
So we're right here. Arctic air is being pushed in here. And because winds are so weak through this area, the Arctic air kind of escapes into the area. So let's go and look at the next graphic. And I'm going to show just about, this is how we measure our oscillation, our Arctic oscillation. All of the little bumps at the top, that's when we go into a positive phase, which means we have that strong polar jet just north of us. And these little dips are negative phase. And where we are, way back here, our strongest dip of the year, and you can see we're down at -5 index, which is a very strong Arctic oscillation, which means we are getting a lot of Arctic air moving in. That polar jet is very weak, and it's dipping down very far south. So we're getting a lot of cool Arctic air moving in the area, which is why we're seeing, and since this week is so low, it's so negative, excuse me, that's why we're seeing such cold Arctic air moving in the area.
Sure.
And we're going to see those temperatures dip below zero, wind chills -25. So it's going to be a cold week and a lot of cold, Arctic air bringing in snowfall.
So these high points right here, that's where we kind of had those really warm days.
Yes, so that's where we see, mostly in the summertime, not getting a lot of weather pattern changes. So we're just going to kind of stay those weeks where nothing really was going on. We were just consistently warm and nice weather. That's when we're in more of an Arctic oscillation. But we also deal with other teleconnections like the El Nino, the La Nina. And I know we talk about that a lot too, so it comes up too. We looked at all kinds of things. This is another image of the jet stream. But we're looking at all kinds of things when we talk about the weather. So a lot of science goes into it, and I don't get to talk about that as much. This has been fun.
Yeah, and we'll be able to talk about it for the next couple weeks too.
Yeah.
A lot of things to talk about.
I'm looking forward to it. Stay
Absolutely.
tuned.
Thanks, Lindsey. We'll be right back.